Welcome, one, and I suppose welcome to all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape Volume 169. I will pause for the mandatory nice.
Nice.
You can access this show not in podcast form. I say that every time because we still get questions. We're still working on it, even 18 months or whatever it's been later. But you can access it on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from the aforementioned Bleeding Green Nation. I'm RJ Ochoa from Blog of the Boys, BLG. Happy Tuesday, September 23rd to you and yours.
It is the NFC East mixtape, not the PB&J mixtape, as you can see here on the screen, which I sent you a picture of when I went to the Royal Tavern in Philly. Great burger, great bar. And they happen to have this, I guess, Tennessee-based, from what I saw, beer from Yule Beer Company. That's XUL. One of my favorite Survivor players. By the way, Survivor back this week. Really good beer, RJ. I would highly recommend this. This delivered on what it says it is. Not a sponsor, just like I've had a lot of novelty beers. My girlfriend, Rachel, shout out to Rachel, who actually got me this can because we had it at Royal Tavern, and then she found it out in the wild and then wanted me to have another one since I liked it so much. So she likes novelty beers a lot. So we try a lot, and she ends up just like dumping out most of them because she doesn't like them. I finish more than she does in that regard. But this one like actually delivered and tastes like a real PB&J in beer form. So shout out to Yule for that beer.
First of all, Yule saying that he's your favorite or one of your favorite Survivor players of all time is like, you know, I don't think Desmond Ritter is going to make it in the NFL level of, you know, going out on a limb. Yule is
I don't need to. He's great. I'm not saying, I have like this amazing taste that no one else.
I'm just saying like
he's great.
That would be like being like, look, I don't know about y'all, but
it's like rooting for the Cowboys in the NFL, right?
NFL quarterbacks.
Like default team.
It's just, I'm just saying it's a little silly. It is Survivor week.
Wow, so interesting. I support the Cowboys and Manchester United and the New York Yankees. And
I don't support the New York Yankees. I had it on the docket.
It was you.
I had it on the docket to. Those people don't exist, but I had it on the docket for us to pick our Survivor season 49 winners. So we'll do that at the end of the episode if you're down. What's your favorite novelty beer? Before we get into the division.
I mean, this one probably
like that is like accessible all the time, like that that's like generally in the in circulation.
I can't. Do you have one that comes to mind?
So I've talked about this many times. Shiner Cheer is available around Christmas time.
So you're counting that. Okay.
Well, that's like if I have to pick one, that's my favorite. So, but it is kind of a time specific thing. Leinenkugel's Sunset Week.
Yeah. I went on a whole journey looking for that a couple summers ago when you recommended that, and only to find out I don't think they have it in my part of the country.
I'm telling you, when you tell people at first it tastes like Fruity Pebbles, everyone kind of is like, "That sounds disgusting. I don't want any part of that in a beer." But it's a delight. So your PB&J mixtape reminded me of that.
Yeah, when you've brought up Shiner before, Mad Elf by Trogs. It's really good. That's like typically a Christmas time kind of beer as well, with like dark cherry or dark chocolate and cherry kind of flavors going on. That's always a really good one. It's almost like a wine at that point.
It's a big week in the sporting world, Brandon. It's Ryder Cup week. I know we have some European golf fans of the mixtape, so a big hope you don't have a good week to them. It's all about the red, white, and blue, Team USA. Big times on the East Coast at Bethpage Black in New York. It's going to be fun. I know you're super excited. I know you're also excited for Penn State to host the Oregon Ducks on Saturday night. We aren't. And there's just, this is, I think it's this weekend and November 10th are being looked at. We're obviously going to talk about the weekend that was, but being looked at as like the major sporting weekends of the fall. This weekend, again, the Ryder Cup starts on Friday, but like every window on Saturday features a major college football matchup. Arizona State plays TCU on Friday night, even at that. And then on Sunday, every window you've got an amazing NFL game, and then you get to cap it all off with Micah Parsons and the Packers returning to play the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. But we'll get to all that in a little bit. Eagles Girl 52, by the way, notes that she presumably is a big fan of Belgian Lambic. Is that the pronunciation here? Beers. Framboise and Sari are my faves. Did I land all of those pronunciations?
I think so.
Look at me go. Wow. Okay. Happy Tuesday indeed. Anything you want to get to before we talk about week 3?
No, I don't think I'll be watching many of those things you just said, other than the NFL, obviously. Excited for the baseball playoffs to start here very soon.
Well, this
So
is also the final week of Major League Baseball's regular season, and that brings a level of anarchy and chaos that's always fun. And I already talked about it, but Survivor premiere. So it's just a lot. There's lots of stuff to watch. It's the truly, I'm going to be the first person to say that the fall is the best time of year. I don't know if you agree with this, but
yeah, of course. I'm a big time fall guy. I'm a Libra, so I have that going for me. You are as well, right?
We have basically the same birthday. I mean,
so yeah, very excited for this time of year. I just want to tell people, watch Survivor. It's a great show. Just watch it. Not an ad. We don't actually make any. I'm not making anything off of that, but I just want people to watch the show so it continues to stay on air. So not that I think it's struggling by any means, but just join the crowd. Watch it. Great show.
It's a great thing. Brandon and I talk about this every fall, except for last, which basically meant that nothing that happened last fall counted in the NFL world. But it's great because it comes on Wednesdays. Like Thursday already has this like baby Friday energy to it. We've kind of adopted that as a society. And you kind of start that run on Wednesday nights with Survivor. It's a great water cooler discussion. And if I may add to and amplify your point, this is season 49 is noted. And they've been making a big deal about what they've already filmed it, but what they're going to do with season 50. So you can get in now and kind of understand some of what's going to happen in the spring when we get to season 50. Season 40 was all winners, if I recall. And season 50 is cut from a similar ilk. Season 40 featured one of my favorite players of all time, Kim. My friend is her cousin. That was previously my closest connection to any singular Survivor player outside of the ones that have been on the mixtape. But I have a new one that we'll get to, obviously, when we preview season 49. But week 3 in the NFL, Brandon, featured, it was the first time that all 4 NFC East teams played their own individual games, didn't have any within the division. And it yielded the first time this season 4 unique records. Up until week 3, obviously, we'd had some identical and similar records. But now we've got an undefeated team, a 2-1 team, a 1-2 team, and a winless team. But that means we start with the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, who... Man, poor bettors who actually took the Rams line. That was a brutal way for the worst possible beat that you could have happen. I picked the Rams to win. I don't feel like that was wrong based on the collapse. I mean, obviously the Eagles won, and so it was wrong, but they looked great, and the Eagles offense looked defunct. It looked broken, and then what a stupid idea. Involve A.J. Brown, and everything starts working once more.
This had to be frustrating for you and anyone rooting against the Philadelphia Eagles. Looks like, okay, they're going to lose here. The wheels are falling off a little bit after these, close wins that they have the first 2 weeks. But yeah, you nailed it. The offense came alive. They seemingly remembered that they do have A.J. Brown on the team, which is pretty important. I mean, they were getting booed at home, as they should have been, because the offense was pathetic after that first drive where Zach Bond intercepts Matthew Stafford and the Eagles take advantage on the short field, get a touchdown. The offense after that ran something like, 12 or 15 plays for like -9 yards, and they had 10 yards within that of running on 3rd and long. I was
loving your tweets about this. Like as it was happening, you were like, it was like the total yards, despite the fact that they had X, Y, or Z or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, like these cowards draws that they run on 3rd and long, where they just totally give up but just try to get a couple yards. So totally pathetic offense there. And I think it's pretty telling after the game that A.J. Brown talks about how we're killers on offense and like we need to be more aggressive. And Jalen Hurts in his post-game interview with Pam Oliver, which I think also, by the way, like one of the more moments where you're just going to get a player being super candid because they're not like winding down after the game and kind of getting talked
fresh
to
on the field. Yeah,
and the PR staff isn't like talking to them, like the way they are before their press conferences in the locker room or whatever. So he said very candidly, like, we need to stop playing scared. Like, we need to stop playing not to lose. We need to start being more aggressive. So to me, there's a lot of ire in Philadelphia about Kevin Matullo, the Eagles' new offensive coordinator. And I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve blame because he's part of this overall offensive operation. But to me, I mean, this is kind of like a top-down directive of how the Eagles have been playing in terms of like, just don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. And we saw that work obviously very well for them last year. And I'm not saying like, you abandon that entirely, but there has to be somewhat better of a balance between not turning the ball over and also being more aggressive and taking shots downfield and getting the ball to your very best player, or one of them, in A.J. Brown. And they did that. So the big question is, was this a legitimate turning point? Have they kind of figured some things out? it would seem like it shouldn't be rocket science to figure out that you need to get AJ Brown involved in offense. But maybe this kind of it did have the feeling of a turning point, at least like emotionally and the energy. It did feel like, I go back to not the like apples for apples circumstance, but when the Eagles beat the Giants back in 2017 with that Jake Elliott 61-yard field goal. I remember the energy after that game and Jake Elliott getting carried off the field by his teammates, and how like that really energized that team, that win. And I think this similarly with this Jordan Davis blocked field goal walk off, it seemed like that, not that the energy was lacking, but it did seem to kind of like reinvigorate this team and re-energize them.
If I recall, that was also pretty early in the season. I don't know if it was like
week three.
Okay, so it's really the exact same window of time, obviously. Yeah, I think my perception isn't that the Eagles were playing not to lose, but playing like, let's keep everything the same. Like I hadn't seen the Eagles really adjust to and adapt to any circumstances. It felt like through the first 2 games of the season, they just existed, and we're like, who we are will just win out in the end more often than not. And in this game, I think the circumstances forced Philadelphia to have to adjust, to have to get out of that shell. And I've long said, like, that's what they're elite at. Whatever the game is, like the lightning delay I talked about after week 1, like if the game, if the offenses go cold for a reason, like a lightning delay or something like that, they're elite at adjusting to whatever the circumstances call for. In this particular case, they were far more dire given the deficit that they were facing. And I think that we sometimes lose scope of, for a comeback like this to happen, the other team has to like choke it away. And you obviously, if you come back against an NFL team, like, you deserve props and credit. I'm not in any way saying or suggesting the opposite, but like, man, and this is not an NFC West mixtape. That's kind of becoming our thing. Like, that's if we make another t-shirt, it's like not whatever.
Not an NFC whatever.
Yeah, or not an AFC West, whatever. But like, Sean McVay is such a loser. Like, I mean,
been saying it for years.
No, we have shared this opinion. I mean, he has been way more of a coward than his contemporaries, than the other coaches that he's likened to, the youthful coaches. He holds a higher level of cowardice with regards to 4th down rates and things like that. But to blow this game away, I mean, this is one of those games that both these teams, I think, will look back on in late December in Philadelphia, if they're in the mix for the 1 seed, or if the division is tight, whatever. This will be a big, one that you stole. And from a Rams perspective, if you're challenging the Niners, if they're the team that it is, or Seattle or whatever, I think you're going to look back and be like, man, I wish we had that game, because you had it. You absolutely had it. And then you could have even still won it after you pissed it all away at the end, and you just couldn't execute. Like, so kudos to Philadelphia in my mind, again, for capitalizing on the cowardice and the ineptitude that the Rams had by being creative and thinking outside the box, and, I don't know, being bold and brave enough to involve the best player on the team outside of Saquon Barkley. It was just a calamity of errors. And so to that point, it was very frustrating to watch, because it was very, Jesse, they can't keep getting away with this type of thing, but they do.
That's all the Eagles do. They just win the game. It's very inevitable. It's very Thanos. They're the Thanos, NFL Thanos. They're 19-1 their last 20 games. And now, I know that's a random. Oh, I'm cherry picking the data point. Jalen Hurts, at least that's a clean.
Okay, so 17 is now. That was my point last week. And somebody tweeted at me. There was a stat.
A big deal out of this.
There was a graphic about it. My point was that it was arbitrary. 16 was arbitrary. 17 is not arbitrary. There are 17 games in a regular season, so it makes sense to utilize the number 17. That was my point last week. That's all I was saying.
Well, he's undefeated in his last 17 games when he starts and finishes the game, which is pretty impressive. And I thought Jalen Hurts was really impressive in this game, especially late. He was clutch. He delivered these big drives. He obviously threw the game-winning touchdown pass to Devontae Smith there on 4th and goal. So he was clutch. He came up in these money situations, and there's kind of been a lot of question, and understandably, justifiably, rightfully so, about how does the offense look when Jalen Hurts has to pass, since typically the Eagles don't have to be in those situations, especially since they've had Saquon Barkley, and you can rely on the run, and you can rely on their defense. But when Jalen Hurts needed to put the team on his back, like, he did that. He answered the bell. So I thought that was really impressive. And I think he's been pretty good this season on the whole. Not perfect, but I think the offensive struggles that have been going on aren't, to me, as much as him, as much as the directive, again, from top down. Jalen Hurts talked about last year, after he had that big game in the championship game, about, like, they finally took this straitjacket off of me. And it felt like that's what they did again in this game. And they actually let him open it up a bit more, which is insane. They don't do it more, considering one of his biggest strengths is throwing the deep ball. He throws a great deep ball. It's a really, like, aesthetically, it's very pleasing, and he's very accurate with it. So they opened that up. They beat the Rams here. And again, to your point there on Sean McVay, it's just insane to me that this was like your second chance, right? This is like you lost the divisional round. How do you not go all out in this game where you're upset about that last loss? Players had talked about that leading up to this game from the Rams, said they had the Eagles circled on their calendar. Within this game, I think I saw someone say, like Sean McVay said on the broadcast to one of the sideline reporters, that like they're going to be aggressive. They weren't. Like, they had so many chances to try to put a nail in the coffin and really be aggressive. But I mean, again, I'm not surprised he didn't do it, because that's what Sean McVay has been doing for years now. He's one of the best and better schemers in the NFL, absolutely. But he's just terrible at game management, especially when it comes to being aggressive. And it really just stands out in stark contrast to what you saw on Monday night with the Lions. And Dan Campbell's going for it. Like, when you have a chance to put the Ravens away, let that be in your control. So you kind of get what you deserve when you are a coward.
I agree with that. And I've come to, like, I had this high level of annoyance with the Rams, and I've come to really respect them. And they are a great team. I mean, they did blow this game, but I just want, I want more for them. I demand more. Like, they have the talent. Like, Sean McVay has the talent. It's just a matter of, like, get out of your own way. I agree that the questions about Jalen Hurts being able to carry the Eagles as a passer are warranted. I think they're still warranted. But I think this was a big step towards debunking that, right? Like, this was a situation, and I can tell you, we were laughing. I think the whole NFL world was laughing in the first half, because it was corroborating that idea. It was corroborating that, like, yeah, this dude is just a running back, like, to use the cliche things that are out there.
Well, that's insane.
No, I mean, but I'm just like, to dilute it.
MVP.
No, to dilute it to what the take is. I mean,
Yeah.
for in the name of saving.
They did have
time.
-1 passing yard in the first half, which is insane.
But in the moment where he was, or they were forced to lean on him, it also isn't hard, which is, I think, the collective point, to be an amazing passer when you have AJ Brown. So it's a matter of use that dude. I mean, lean into the strengths of this team. And so he did, and deserves full credit for that. And obviously everybody involved deserves full credit. This is, I'm not trying to be an old man yells at cloud type of thing, but Jordan Davis, go down. But, and that's not about,
I disagree.
It's not about the betting line, but, like, if you go down, you win. I know it's cool, and I'm really not trying to quibble, but if you ask me what the correct thing to do is, it's to go down with the ball.
I think Nick Sirianni kind of alluded to that, wasn't trying to harp on it. I mean, but there are tiebreakers too, that you get really in the weeds with this when it comes to, like, points differential. But, like, if you had a chance to get a touchdown, you just gave it up, and that ended up being, it's very unlikely that would happen, but why not? Just get it's a touchdown there. Also, he seemed to have a good read of, there was no one around. And also, yeah, I think it was fine to do what he did there. I get what you're saying. And I was actually pretty upset for the Lions' sake on Monday night that David Montgomery doesn't go down there instead of getting into the end zone, because that absolutely gave the Ravens a better chance than they would have had if he just slid towards the one there. So I do believe in that mindset of going down when he can seal the game. But in this case, I do think it's fair. Also, just like the story of Jordan Davis too, and kind of how he's come to get to this point and kind of has broken through. Like, I feel he earned that touchdown. He deserved to be able to go and make that play.
It can be true that it was a cool individual moment for Jordan Davis, and that the logically correct move is to go down. That's simply my point.
Sure.
I have died on this hill before from a Cowboys perspective. Byron Jones was in a situation like this, like 10 years or like 9 years ago. And I fought with everybody, because I was like, and in the clip in question, you could see Sean Lee telling him to go down. Like, I think Jared Goff was telling David Montgomery to go down on Monday night. Granted, from way behind, but still, right. Like, the point is, if you go down, you win the game. And Jordan Davis won the game. But again, we don't have to, talk about this forever and ever. Are you ready to move on to Washington?
I hope we touched on Jordan Davis enough there, because I mean, like, it is pretty remarkable how he's broken through. And at the time the Eagles picking up his 5th-year option back in May, that was not a no-brainer. There was like, is this really a good decision? A guy who he ranked 4th on the Eagles in defensive tackle snaps last season, And there was question, is this really a good move? And, there's a lot of talk about, the Eagles made the wrong pick because they should have picked Kyle Hamilton. And obviously that has a lot of legitimacy when you look at how good Kyle Hamilton has been. But it seems like Jordan Davis has broken through, and that's a big deal for this defense and for this team as a whole. So just wanted to give him credit. So I don't think, those obviously are plays you can't count on, those field goal blocks, but it's not luck. Like they did a really good job of like exploiting a weakness in the Rams protection there. And they're also huge. Like that's part of why you draft Jordan Davis, is because he's this massive man who's extremely athletic and can make that kind of play. Literally like the second best RAS profile at the time he was drafted, just behind Calvin Johnson. So just wanted to give him his flowers there.
We never go out of order, but we have to in the name of breaking news, something that happened as you were speaking. Adam Schefter reporting that the New York trying to be good at football Giants have made a change at quarterback. Russell Wilson, somewhat friend of the show, has unfortunately for the show's sake and for his sake been benched in favor of first-round rookie Jackson Dart. So Jackson Dart will start on Sunday for the Giants against the Los Angeles Chargers. Very difficult circumstance for him to go into. Obviously, again, we're going a bit out of order here. The Giants are last in the division with an 0-3 record. They lost on Sunday Night Football to the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you saw this. They are 1-19 in primetime games since 2019. That's impossible. But it is true nonetheless. And they've had a lot of quarterbacks in that time. That includes Eli Manning, even that entire run. I don't even know who the win was authored by, actually, off the top of my head. But they are making a change. I saw Adam Shine.
Primetime?
Yes, primetime slot.
Wouldn't that be DeVito, because they played the Packers a couple years ago in primetime? Wasn't that a primetime game?
You might be right.
Tommy DeVito.
I don't know. Again, I can't confirm because I don't know. But they did lose, obviously, the Giants. And so it makes sense to talk about them relative to this news. I think you and I both agree that this makes sense. This is smart. Russell Wilson in the game in question, 18 of 32 for $160, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions to squeak the Cowboys in. The worst possible Sunday happened for Dallas, and that Caleb Williams looked amazing against them, and that Russell Wilson looked horrible, which, again, Dallas kind of lost twice. This makes sense. The Giants have an incredible running back in Cam Scadaboo, who's a rookie, and Tyrone Tracy's going to miss a couple of weeks. And so the Scadaboo train kind of gets to get off the rails. And I think that it looks even better now with Jackson Dart involved. The Giants have utilized him in these, RPO moments where he's really only run the ball. In fact, I don't think he's thrown the ball a single time off of any of those reads. It had to be done. And I was saying, Adam Shine, I saw this clip. I didn't listen to the show, but I saw the clip from his SiriusXM show where he was just kind of venting, and he was like, what are you protecting him from? Like this line of like, we're protecting Jackson Dart. Like what? And he was being sarcastic, but he was like, from the Chiefs, from the big bad wolf, from Mike Tirico talking about it. Like he was just kind of, venting almost. This is the right decision. It amazingly is too late to have been executed now, even though we're still in September, because you've dug a hole that is very, very difficult to get out of. But nonetheless, this is also, I think, representative that Brian Daboll is like, well, my back's up against the wall, so we've got to do something right now.
Yeah, they didn't want to go down the path where they start him and then he struggles, and then it's like, well, now what? And, they go to Russell Wilson. I guess he stinks, and then they go back to Dart. So, I mean, I think it was – I just – again, signing Russ never made sense to me. You're just wasting – it's 1 year, $10.5 million. Maybe they can trade him. I don't know who's trading for him at this point. It doesn't really make a lot of sense
Russell?
to me.
I mean, maybe the Bengals or,
it could be a team that has an unexpected quarterback injury between now and the deadline too, and whatever. But I still don't think you should have signed him. I think it's just a waste of resources. The Jameis Winston signing was absolutely fine. It made total sense for them as a bridge quarterback. Russell Wilson signing was very dumb to me. But ultimately, hey, kudos to the Giants for actually, number one, drafting a quarterback, which they had to do.
Trading up to do it.
Yes. Well, just doing it because, again, everyone's like, oh, Malik Neighbors, great. Yeah, he's great. Okay, that didn't matter because you needed to invest in a quarterback. It would have been very wise to take a chance on someone. And maybe J.J. McCarthy, who he was available for them, maybe he stinks. Maybe Bo Nix isn't any good. I don't know. But still, at some point, but maybe neither is Dart. He looked good in the preseason. I don't know. I think he might actually be able to play a little bit. I don't know just how good he'll be. But this move was way overdue. So at least for the Giants, who very much, as we've said a long time here, have not had something to hang their hats on. Now you do. Now you're just like, okay, we can at least just, even if we're a terrible team, we can at least just get to see what Jackson Dart is. And if he stinks by the end of the year, that's obviously very depressing. But you can still go into next year thinking, okay, maybe if we just get some more support, maybe this will work out here. It does seem pretty unideal to me. I think Ed Valentine has highlighted this a lot, or I think The Ringer has made mention of this, how they just haven't synced up the quarterback and the coach and the GM in so long. It's always like different regimes or different quarterbacks, and it never just syncs up. And I feel like that was a natural splitting point for them to not bring back Joe Shane and Brian Dable this year. But the fact that they're here and they're starting Dart, they're at least doing something right for once.
Part of the magic of the 2016 Cowboys, I know they didn't win the Super Bowl or anything, but you acknowledge that they were a very successful team. Part of the magic was the youthful injection that both Dak and Zeke provided. Like it was this just like complete and total new era. I mean, this new generation, because they played such prominent positions. And I'm not saying that this is that, but like you have that literally. You know, like it's a rare thing to have your starting quarterback and starting running back both be high profile rookies, and you are on the precipice of that as a very visible franchise, obviously. So you've got Jackson Dart, you've got Cam Scatterboot. To your point, like I think every Giants fan for the last whatever, not 48 hours, but whatever it's been, like 36 hours, has just been like, okay, I guess we'll be excited to watch Cam Scatterboot, because that's it. Like to your point, like it was like that's all I've got this week. Like it's going to be, Russell's just going to be in the way, but every time he hands off to Scat, it'll be awesome. But now it's a matter of like, you're right. The Chargers may boat race us, but at least we're learning something. At least we're taking steps forward. We're figuring stuff out. They're learning, they're growing, they're developing, so that next year, things like now next year means something. Like it's not just, those aren't just empty or hollow words the way they have been in the past. So I also think if I make this about the Cowboys again, it's amazing how like everyone involved with the Giants is so willing to be like, yeah, Russ, the fact that you threw for 450 against Dallas means nothing because they suck. like that literally means nothing to us because of the context of the situation.
Yeah, that's tough. I will say too, what if he's just good? Like it's not the most likely outcome, but we saw Jaden Daniels, last year, and how much of a difference that made for the Commanders. We saw rookie CJ Stroud make a big time difference for the Texans. Like it's possible.
Rookie Dak, like I just mentioned. I mean,
I don't think, and I don't think Dart has some of the support of those other guys that they did, because there's still a lot on the Giants that isn't right. But it's possible, like they just, and I don't know if it's right away, but I think at some point in the season they're kind of going to go on a little bit of a run here, even if it's just like a 2 or 3 week deal.
I just saw a tweet from Diana Rossini who says there were internal conversations about possibly waiting 1 more week before so that Jackson Dart could play the Saints. Why? That's so dumb. Like, well,
it's just like you're like, well, we have to get him a win in his first start, basically.
No, but like even if you do that, like, and I will pick the Giants against the Saints. Like, I'll go out on that limb right now. But what if you lose? Like, what, you know what I mean? What if you lose because it's the NFL and something weird happens? Like there's a tip ball. We could come up with a million hypotheticals.
The game's in New Orleans too. Like it's in the Superdome. It's not an easy place.
But what if you lose? You know what I mean? What if, like, the moment you think you can design wins or manufacture wins or operate in a vacuum, like that is so dumb to me. Like, and what if you go beat the Chargers? Like, I'm not going to pick them to, but what if you do? To your point, like what if Jackson Dart is the first, quarterback to beat the Chargers, the defense that we're all rightfully hyping up and objectively talking about in positive ways? What if he and Cam Scatterboot just go like announce themselves and you wouldn't have had it because you wanted to wait a week? And the loser mentality behind like, oh, we're fine being 0-4, so that Jackson Dart can beat the crummy Saints. Are you going to play the crummy Saints every week of Jackson Dart's career? You know what I mean? Like so I'm excited for Giants fans. I think you agree. I maintain a belief that they are led by such losers. Like everyone involved with them is such a coward. And I hope for the Giants fandom's sake that Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboot are able to, awaken things enough to where, people with conviction are suddenly in positions of leadership with the Giants.
Well, I really wanted the Giants to win against the Chiefs and I usually, in the rooting guide thing, I would like early in the season, I don't want to get cute with that. I'm just like, just kill off the team. To me, the Giants are kind of already dead at 0-2 just because they're both division losses. And I just don't like that roster anyway. So I think I said this last week, you beat the Chiefs, that doesn't really accomplish much. You're still in this big hole that you have with those division losses, 0-2. Beating an out-of-conference opponent doesn't do much for you. So didn't happen. And obviously Russ didn't play well either. So unfortunate for me and for you, Giants result. Eagles will see the Giants coming up here because they play them that stupid kind of thing they do with also the Commanders this year twice within 3 weeks. I believe there's a Thursday game coming up on October 9th there. That's in New York. So Eagles will be the first NFC East game for Jackson Dart in a couple of weeks.
Also, first primetime game because these next two are at noon, the Charger or 1 Eastern. But so that will be the first time that like the world watches Jackson. He'll get the island game treatment. Everyone, micro-analyzing every single move and every single whatever. So yeah, I mean, this good for the Giants. It is still too late. And I don't want to hear anything from Brian Daboll about like how this was the right time and blah, blah. If we may, because I would offer that he's our favorite non-NFC East player. This is a tough moment for Russell Wilson. Like not that we didn't know this, but his career, I would say, is like fully over. I don't know that anyone gives him a chance to start in the NFL ever again. Of
he
sound
could
mind.
Be a backup.
That's what I'm saying. Like he might be Carson.
But I don't know if he wants to do that.
I think he's accomplished enough. Russ, you want to go live your life, tour the world with your wife and family. You've earned it. He could work in any broadcast booth, I think. I think he would be a great studio analyst. I don't think we've seen the last of Russell Wilson in our NFL lives, but I do think that, again, this was super obvious, but this is the clear and total end. And what, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like we all knew that that the Seahawks won that trade, but like everything that has happened since just continues to like underscore how right and correct the Seahawks and Pete Carroll were in that disagreement.
Yeah, no disagreement.
Russ doesn't catch the heat that Aaron Rodgers does for his departure out of Green Bay. And Aaron has done enough to put a target on himself in a lot of ways, but pretty identical situations. You know what I mean?
It was like a multi-year dragged out thing. Yeah. With Russ too. Remember, so originally there was that one off season where he had the list of teams, then he just ended up staying. And then a year later he gets dealt there. Obviously doesn't work out for the Broncos. Had like a decent little stretch there for the Steelers last year. But yeah, it's over.
The Washington Commanders are the team who we were going to talk about before this happened. They are playing with their backup quarterback, or were playing, maybe will still be playing with Marcus Mariota. We both took them. I think you also took them to win and cover. They won handily.
Yeah.
So I think that they won more impressively than we anticipated they would. And good for them. I mean, that was really impressive. Like 41-24, the final score over the Raiders. It's the Raiders, but you're supposed to blow out bad teams. And if you can do it with your backup quarterback, I know people were like quick to crown Cliff Kingsbury after last year with Jaden Daniels, but I always kind of like pump the brakes a little bit just because we have a lot of data on Cliff. Like I wasn't ready to go there. I'm not ready to jump after one game, but like this is a moment where I'm like, okay, Cliff, respect. Like you did not have Jaden Daniels to work. I know that was partly the case last year, but this was everyone involved with Washington deserves, to feel really good about themselves in this game, especially Dan Quinn. Did you see him get hit on the sideline? Or no. I don't know if you, dude, Mark, or do you say no?
I did not see it.
Okay, well, Marcus Mariota was like pushed out of bounds and just like blasted into Dan Quinn. And it was really funny, only because Dan was okay. And he had a bloody nose. It just kind of added to the like theater of it all. But this was a big win for Washington. Really impressive in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think Washington could be one of these teams that is able to beat up on the bad teams like they did week 1, Giants, week 3 against the Raiders here. Raiders, again, as we highlighted in last week's show, very difficult spot for them, having to play Monday night against and then travel across the country and then play a team coming off the Thursday night game that is literally like the biggest rest disadvantage you can get without factoring in buys there. So really tough spot for them. Did not really feel good about their chances in that game. To their credit, Commanders take advantage. Again, I think they might be a team that is able to beat up the bad teams like that. TBD when it comes to hanging with the big boys. Obviously didn't pass that test when they played the Packers there in Green Bay. So we'll be intrigued to see how they do going forward. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Terry McLaurin also banged up here. Seems like his status for this week's game against the Atlanta Falcons might be in jeopardy.
Quick prediction game for the Commanders through October, given where we are at in the calendar. So they're at Atlanta on Sunday. Not to spoil our picks, but I think we'll both take them. Then at the Chargers. Interesting. Chargers are kind of part of our lives for the next couple of weeks here.
That's a loss.
I think
they go 1-1 in their next 2.
I think If Jaden Daniels plays that game, I'm very interested, and I will.
It's in LA too.
I will really enjoy that game. I hope that's
Chargers are cooking. Your boy Justin Herbert.
I agree. I mean, so I'm really interested in that game. Then they get the Bears on Monday Night Football.
Well, who would lose to the Bears?
I know. And then the Cowboys and the Chiefs to round it out. I think we'll take. I would take them in Arrowhead.
There. I mean,
that's in November. That's in November. I was talking. Yeah. I said through October. Please listen to the show. So I think the only two potential losses here are the AFC West teams, not an AFC West mixtape, to be clear. But and I mean, the Chiefs aren't like exactly super terrifying anymore, but they're still the Chiefs. So yeah, I mean, my point is, I think they get to November as one of the top teams in the conference.
I mean, what do you mean? One of the top teams? How many teams are you putting?
No, I mean, they're
ahead of them.
I guess they live up to the preseason hype through October.
I don't agree. I think the preseason hype is like they're going to take this next step. To me, it seems like you're projecting them to be a little bit more of what they were last year.
Say
like
they
this
lose,
wild card team.
I think you said they'll go 1-1 in their next two. You think they'll beat the Bears. Yep. Right now, I think we think they'll beat the Cowboys, and then they would probably beat the Chiefs. So that would put them.
I don't know. I think they win one of the two Chiefs or Cowboys games, but not both.
So I'd put them at 3, 4, 5, and 3 through October.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to be. I think they're going to be a little bit more of the team like we saw last year than they are this team that makes a massive leap.
I did not quite realize that they get the Eagles in 2 out of 3 weeks too.
At the end of the season.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
The division might be like, I'm not saying it will be 100%. It could be, in theory, like decided by then, depending on what those two teams do, which would be dumb because then it's like those games just don't even matter.
I don't think it will be decided. I think that Washington will be in the mix. Like I think those 3 weeks will be like the NFC East Bowl.
Well, at the very least, that first game might decide.
The first game will go a long way. Totally. The one in
which would then render the other one totally useless for no good reason.
The Week 18 game might be meaningless. I agree with that. That's
which would be dumb. Yeah.
But I mean, they don't have a lot of like dogs on their schedule. Like maybe if you want to say the Chargers, if you want to give the Chiefs that benefit of the doubt. The Lions certainly, but I mean, they have recent history on their side in that capacity. The Broncos, I don't think, are as scary as Sean Payton wanted us all to believe. The Vikings are very Jekyll and Hyde. That could be, and it's in Minnesota. That could be tough. And then the Eagles. But my point is like 5-6 losses at most is kind of how I feel about the Commanders. I feel more stable in that than I had to any point.
Yeah, I still need to see it against the big dogs.
I think you're just a hater. Let's move to the Cowboys, a team who you specialize in hating on.
This looks like a team to me that
do you want to go? Do you want to go?
There's a reason why there was a win total at 7.5, which I guess got moved up to 8.5. Because I feel bad. I'm dumb because I was like, why is this? I fell into the trap of this is too good to be true. That the Cowboys were originally underdogs in the line but they were plus 1.5. They
plus 1.5, and then it moved to minus 1.5.
Like I fell for that trap.
So hold up, we all fell for it. Not a single person was like, this makes sense. So,
right.
So, but that underscores how insane this is. To your point.
Yeah, it was a fishy line, and turned out to be a reason why. Obviously, Vegas doesn't know that CeeDee Lamb is going to go down, and that's a big deal. And yeah, I think that's just kind of it's an interesting spot for the Cowboys here because it's not only do you lose, it's not like, okay, the loss is insurmountable. It's the fact that it's a loss to a team and a quarterback that looks left for dead and terrible by all and any metrics that you could find. And also just the eye test, very terrible, came to life against that defense. As I talked about last week, I think there's reason to believe that defense could get better. As the season goes on, you get some players back. Now you're dealing with other injuries on offense. And it all just feels like the Cowboys kind of just are in a funk right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to kind of, weather this stretch, but this is kind of like, I think their season right here. Like they have to be able to find a way to weather this stretch if they're going to do anything.
So I see the question from Costas in the chat. I'll get to that in a moment here. I think you did a great job of laying out the poor narrative from the Cowboys, or that results from the Cowboys in this game, but I don't think you hit it hard enough. So this game, this Chicago game, looks terrible for Dallas because they lost to a quarterback that most people had written off. Granted, it's still super early in Caleb Williams' career, but the narrative was what it was. This was also a situation where if you were a Cowboys fan, you had maybe begun to cool off by the point in Sunday Night Football in which it was confirmed that Russell Wilson was indeed very bad. And so you kind of lost a second time. Beyond that, back to the Bears of it all, you also lost to the head coach who your leadership didn't even interview, didn't even have the ability to interview because they dragged out the Mike McCarthy dismissal through the wild card round. And people love to say like, oh, Ben Johnson wouldn't have taken an interview here. That point is moot to me. It's the principle of the matter that they didn't even make an effort to interview the man, didn't get the same effort to interview Aaron Glenn, who I know the Jets are winless, but, they fought hard at least if we're, really reaching for things. The injury situation is mounting. The fact that you are like as down bad as you can possibly be and that Micah Parsons and the Packers are up next, it does feel like anything that can go wrong will not only go wrong, but it will go wrong in the most wrong way that can embarrass you in the most flamboyant way possible. That is the Dallas Cowboys way. And I think the Chicago game is an example of that. There were 4 plays of 30-plus yards that the Cowboys allowed in the first half. 3 of them in the first quarter, 2 of them on the first drive. I mean, it was the most of course possible way that they could collapse, which is a manner that they specialize in, unfortunately.
That flea flicker too was like one of the worst flea flickers I've ever seen run, just in terms of the toss that DeAndre Swift goes back to Caleb Williams. Like he almost sailed it over his head. Also, that Bears team, as I brought up last week, and why I was so confident in the Cowboys, missing a lot of players. Like they're really banged up. They were missing their best cornerback. They might be for the season, Jalen Johnson. So there was really no good reason for the Cowboys to not be at least more competitive in that game. And I also thought it was a little weird that Dak wasn't playing at the end. I guess you felt fine with that.
No, or yes. So I actually was upset that they didn't pull him a possession earlier. The possession I'm talking about, there were 8 minutes left in the game. They were down 17 and they were back on their own like 10-yard line. And to me, I mean, and you can talk about like pride or whatever, but like live for another day, man. Like if you are of the belief or mindset that anything can still happen and you can still be a playoff team or whatever you want to talk about, okay, fine. Like you have a right to feel that way given the point we're at in the season, but then don't have your franchise quarterback out there without his star wide receiver, without his starting center, and with what we would go on to find out is with his right guard, who's a rookie, who's dealing with a high ankle sprain. Like it was just dumb. And he took a sack, like, which kind of proved the point. And the point was also proven in that the very next possession, they put Joe Milton in, which was an acknowledgement that they were ready and willing to wave the white flag. I would also add, if I'm, dressing the narrative of this all, it isn't a good look for you that you, and I have defended Matt Eberflus a lot, and I maintain that it must be very difficult to make lemonade out of this when a week before the season started, his best player was traded away. So all that context is necessary. It's also very fair to put an enormous amount of blame on his shoulders because what he's doing is kind of, nothing. I mean, the whole NFL world is ridiculing his defensive scheme and defensive operation, but it doesn't look good for you that you went to Chicago, the team, who employed him as their head coach, and that he just got worked in every single way. Every Bears fan walked out of Soldier Field high-fiving for various reasons, and on top of all that was like, and that's why we fired him. You know what I mean? Like it was just it was really, 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 really bad. And I'm curious for your opinion on this. I have zero issue. I don't know if you saw how CeeDee Lamb got hurt. I have zero issue with him getting a handoff. There's a lot of hindsight happening here from people.
That's so dumb.
It is. I don't want to call it dumb. I think people are allowed to feel the way they want to feel.
No, it's dumb.
But I mean, that
could happen on any play.
It could have happened on any play. And I endorse getting your best offensive player the ball in unique ways. Can you make an argument that the Cowboys have been running the ball well with Javonte Williams? Totally. But I would make a different argument that I want the ball in CeeDee Lamb's hands as much as possible. And I'm all for doing that in whatever way possible. If he'd gotten hurt in the exact same way on a screen, nobody would have offered this argument. It's football. You can't control that type of thing. It is not ideal and it's unfortunate, but it was not an error on Brian Schottenheimer's, part for designing this play or calling this play. It's just football and players are going to get hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's dumb to me. Why don't we look at the next 4, playing the prediction game, 4 games here for the Cowboys. And I picked 4 because it seems like a lot of those injuries that like CD and Tyler Booker and Cooper Beatty kind of might be like a 4 or longer. I heard you talk about how you think CD might actually be held out to the bye, to just, looking at how you could give him extra rest and try to make sure he's all right.
That was
play the next 4.
Before you get into that, my prediction in the video I did on our channel on Monday was that maybe they wind up keeping CD out through the bye. Some of that, to your point that you're about to get into, is how you're doing, how the offense is doing. But in a perfect world, I think that's, if you're the Cowboys, you hope you win and the offense survives, and you can take it that far.
Yeah, let's say like just optimistically, it's 4 weeks for a lot of these guys. I think that's like a good outcome, realistically speaking. What do you think they go in their next 4 here? They're 1-2. Packers on Sunday Night Football. Do you think they win?
I think, I don't want to give my prediction away because we're about to do that, but they are going to get Sunday. I have brought up to you many times about how the night that Jerry Jones was celebrated for going into the Hall of Fame was in November of 2017, a Sunday night game against the Eagles. And it's been outdone since, but at the time, it was the worst loss the Cowboys had ever sustained in AT&T Stadium, which is like a physical testament to who Jerry Jones is. And that Eagles team would go on to win the Super Bowl. So my point is, like, this is going to be that. Like, this is going to be the most like predictable thing possible that can happen in a negative way for the Cowboys. It is going to be cartoon levels of funny. So I'm picking them to lose.
I think with the Packers losing to the Browns too, like in that kind of way that they did, it feels like that's like they're kind of pissed off. Like, let's get back. Yeah. And let's have Micah Parsons have a big game against his former team.
So they lose. And then I think
they're 1-3 at that point. And then,
they probably beat the Jets and Panthers. I mean, I know the Panthers looked stout, but Dak is playing. Dak's playing very well. They're running the ball well. I think that, I think they win those two. So that puts them at 3-2
on the road. They're 3-3 at that point, right? Mm-hmm. And then they play Washington.
We just said
you think they lose.
Yeah, I think they lose.
It's in Dallas. It's at home.
I think they lose. I still think they split the series this season. The second game's on Christmas. It's one of the Netflix games. That's the one in Washington. But
that's tough though, because you're 3-4. You have 2 losses in the division. Like, that's probably not thinking division win at that point. You're probably thinking wild card.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of their decision on these guys will be based on maybe that Washington game, right? Like, if I'm right, and I think you agree reasonably that they're at 500 through 6. They might tell themselves, like, if we can squeak past this Washington team and get north of 500, then they play the Broncos and the Cardinals before their bye. Maybe they split those. You know what I mean? If you can get to the bye at 5-4, I feel like you count yourself.
You make a trade with those picks you got. You might be able to get like a really good player. According to Jerry Jones, you might be able to trade, for a star player with those picks that you got from the Packers.
Costas asked how I feel about Kyer Elam, fellow Gator, by the way, and Donovan Ezuraku now. They were the darlings of camp before the Micah story just took off and consumed all of the oxygen in the room. Kyer Elam's been bad. But what I would offer, if I'm trying to give any benefit of the doubt, Deron Bland's been hurt. Like, he has not been able to be utilized in the role that was envisioned for him. That doesn't excuse his poor play, but he's been quite poor. And Donovan Ezuraku has not been a baller yet. But I mean, the context for him is this: he's played 3 NFL games, and that matters. I think we are the fact that they're missing Micah Parsons gets all of the attention. But, and you referenced Jerry's comments Tuesday morning on 105 The Fan. He also said that he wouldn't, if he could, he wouldn't go back and trade Micah earlier in the offseason, which is just dumb. I mean, we all understand this. But I think that if they had traded Micah earlier, they don't let DeMarcus Lawrence walk. Like, we're watching the results of missing both Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence. I know you have forever hated on DeMarcus Lawrence, but he was an important player for them, an elite run defender.
Bad player. He's overrated.
He was an elite run defender, and they've spent nothing but time since the Micah trade but talking about improving and stopping the run. And so the trading of Micah exacerbated the loss that was already going to be significant from DeMarcus Lawrence. So, I mean, people are like, well, their edge rushers suck. Like, they shouldn't have traded Micah. No, they shouldn't have traded Micah, but they definitely shouldn't have traded Micah after letting DeMarcus Lawrence walk without having someone else. Like, they obviously envisioned having Micah Parsons be on the team when DeMarcus Lawrence left, which is why, again, I think that Matt Eberflus deserves a slight benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are in a tough spot here. It just doesn't feel... This hasn't just felt like their year as a whole. We talk about that feeling of that team. It's your year. It just between the Micah stuff, Schottenheimer, these injuries. Again, it's possible they weather it and make a run in the second half. But right now, things are just not trending in a very good way for them after that loss to the Bears.
I've said this many times, both to you, like here and privately, and to everyone in our audience, that the Packers playoff loss broke them. Like they are still broken from that playoff loss. In terms
just
of
dropped it. So
in terms of disposition, in terms of
you mean
attitude,
the other playoff loss.
in terms of mentality. And so beyond the Micah factor of Sunday, which again is consuming all of the energy, this is the Packers' first visit to the stadium since that day. And I mean, if you had told me that day when like all hell was raining down, that the next time the Packers walked into the building that Micah would be on the team, I would like that would have been the most impossible thing that I could have imagined. Right. So yeah, I mean, and that's why like I do think if the Cowboys were to win on Sunday, it would be cathartic. It would feel look, it would just be a week 4 win if they managed to win, but it would feel like, you know, the meme of the little girl that's like at a doctor's appointment that when she's like screaming her head off or whatever. It would be different. I mean, I think like I would run out to like my backyard and just like scream into the night. Like it would be cathartic in a lot of ways, and empowering in a weirdly sad way. Just given what the last 18 months have been.
Have the Cowboys ever been this big home underdogs when Dak has been starting? 6.5 point home dogs with Dak starting.
I looked this up before the week 1 game because they were 7.5, 8.5 point dogs on the road. And the only instance I could find, I can't remember if it was on the road or not. I can look up my own tweet. Can you vamp from me, please?
Yeah, I think that's a crazy, like that's these lines that the Cowboys have had this season. Again, I think that's very telling with where they are at, which you made fun of me for saying the Cowboys over under total was suspiciously low.
Man, I can't find it.
Can't find it. What's the point?
Well, because I had looked this up.
You looked up just across the board?
I looked up historically, like the longest line they had against them with Dak as their starter, because there were times in 2020 when he had been hurt or whatever where lines were massive. Right. And I think the biggest one, but I can't remember if I only focused on road games for this exact reason, because they were on the road in week 1 when I was looking this up. So I can't remember, but at the time, the biggest one was the 2018 game at Philadelphia. They were like 8.5 or 9.5 point dogs, and they won that game. But I don't think there's an instance, I could check and verify, but it would take some time. But I don't think there's an instance of them ever being this large of a home underdog with Dak playing in the game, to your point.
Yeah.
And this is going to be one of those games. And like, I don't know how much you were watching Sunday Night Football last week, but like NBC was like, oh, this Giants-Chiefs game stinks. Next week, we have Micah Parsons and the Packers visiting the Cowboys. Make sure you tune in. Like, they are going to get their money's worth for this. Like, this is going to be exhausting.
Well, you could hype it up more than you could certainly the other matchup.
Are you ready to pick all 4 games?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we'll go chronologically for this, as we always do. The Eagles are in Tampa at noon on Sunday. I saw the weather is like it's going to be like hot and rainy.
This happened to them last year, where it wasn't rainy, but it was very hot, and the Eagles were just like passing out. The players just like passing out left and right, because the Bucs are wise and are playing in their white uniforms at home too. So the Eagles are like in these dark green jerseys in the heat, and they were not ready for it. They're trying to get there a day early this year to see if that helps. I don't know
can't you
really it's going to make.
Can't you wear the Kelly greens? It's a road uniform and it's lighter.
I don't know how much that would help, and I don't know if you can. Maybe.
Well, this line.
But they also don't want to do that commercially. They're not going to burn one of those games they like to have at home.
Well, I thought the Eagles were all about competing, not about commercial success.
Fair point. Really, Jerry Jones of them.
I know what we said last week, and again, the logic was sound. I mean, Sean McVay just ruined it, but this line feels disrespectful. So our preferred,
but doesn't that seem curious?
Our preferred sports betting partner at SB Nation is FanDuel, and as of Tuesday at lunchtime, FanDuel has the Buccaneers as 3.5 point home underdogs,
and it opened at 3, by the way. So this has shifted in the Eagles' favor.
Now the Bucs are 3-0, but they have achieved all 3 of those wins at the very last second of all 3 games, and against some moribund teams in the Falcons, the Texans, and the Jets. So that context matters. Like, they're not the most like physical, loud and proud 3-0 team we've ever seen. I do think that they are very good. Like, I think they're deserving of a 3-0 record, but that could be where the line is kind of coming from in my personal estimate. Yeah. And losing Mike Evans certainly matters.
The Eagles have a better point. The Eagles, who everyone would say like they've won these games close, have a better point differential than the Bucs
yeah,
do.
the Bucs have won all these games on like last second field goals, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So also the Bucs are banged up. Mike Evans, not going to play.
Jordan Davis is inflating that. That's why he took the touchdown back, was to help.
That matters. Point differential matters. So yeah, Mike Evans banged up. Mecca Ibuka has been like a revelation early on the season.
Good. He's
Although
awesome.
He will play, but he's also kind of dealing with some things too. So that's something to make note of. The Bucs lost Jalen McMillan, who would be one of their top 3 or top 4 at very least receivers before the season. So between Evans and McMillan being down, the Bucs are down without two of their top 4 wide receivers. We'll see how that goes. Missing multiple starting offensive linemen. Sounds like they could get Chris Godwin back, so that's a big deal for them if that's true. Could get Tristan Wirfs back. That's a massive deal for them if that's true. But they're still missing their starting right tackle. They're still missing Cody Mock, one of their top interior offensive linemen there. So they're banged up, and I think that's what's being reflected in the line here. I think part of it is just the Eagles don't lose. It's hard to pick against them because they just don't lose. Now, if they did, the last team that did beat Jalen Hurts when he started and finished the game was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oddly enough, in Week 4 last year on a 1:00 start in the heat. So it's almost like you get to do this redo of last year's game in a way, and the circumstances.
Like the
similar.
Rams just got to.
Well, not different though, because they were in Philly this time. They were in the divisional round as well, but not in the regular season. Also, it was snowing in that game, so a little bit of a different thing there. But yeah, so I do think from an Eagles mentality standpoint, it seems like it's probably refreshing to not be the team that is hunted as they were in Week 1, where division game, NFL kickoff game, you're the main target. The Cowboys are trying to come for your top spot in the division. Week 2. Super Bowl rematch. Week 3, divisional round rematch. Now it's like the Eagles get to be the ones hey, we have something to prove to go out against this team
they're road favorites. What are you talking about with this underdog mentality?
The team has owned them, though. The team has owned them.
Oh my gosh.
The team has owned them. I'm saying the Eagles have been owned by this Bucs team. The Eagles have absolutely been owned by this Bucs team. Todd Bowles has given a lot of problems to Jalen Hurts. I mean, I'd be dumb to take the Bucs when the Eagles, all they do is win. So I'm going to take the Eagles to win a field goal game like I usually do. So I'll say the Bucs slightly cover.
I think that logic is sound. It is fair to just bet on the Eagles until the train rides
me
out.
Wrong. Yeah, I would feel much better about okay. I'll feel so dumb if I bet against the Eagles once again.
There isn't a lot of logic in that. I mean, there's logic, but that's a really simple form of logic. Not that.
Well, what would you regret more? Is the logic to me? I think I would regret betting against them once again.
I didn't actually bet on the Rams, but I don't regret my mentality. I felt justified in that. I mean, but
all they do is win.
I agree with that, but at some point it does have to catch up to them, which again we've been saying for a long time. I recognize that. So
you could catch up to the Bucs too. That's the thing.
I'm going to take the Bucs. I'm going to take the Bucs because I'm getting points. They're at home and I'm getting points, and
that's a totally fair bet. Baker Mayfield has been awesome in the clutch, which is why they've been able to win those tight games.
This is not arbitrary, but or it is arbitrary, but the what is it? The Eagles are 20-0 in the last games that Jalen Hurts starts and finishes. It reminds me. Look, I'm an Astros fan, and this is a very stressful week because we're not going to win the division, and
shout
we're
out
not.
Stats.
Yeah, it was not a fun weekend in my text messages. But that being said, I hate that the Astros broadcast and everyone does this. The Astros have been amazing, but they talk about how they have won the last 7 divisions that have been the result of full seasons. It's their way of throwing out the COVID because we didn't win the AL West in 2020, and so their whole point is the last 7 full season AL West division. It's no, you can just say 7 out of 8. That's totally fine. That's super impressive. You don't have to add the stipulation. So I would offer the stipulation is not necessary for Jalen Hurts. Speaking of stats, it reminds me of he had the best line ever a few years ago when people would be oh, Mahomes is undefeated in 3 o'clock. He was we don't have to invent reasons why he's awesome. This is a little bit of that.
On the Mahomes point real quick, very much looking forward to this Ravens Chiefs game where one of those two teams drops to 1-3. I think that's. I
told you this weekend has just a lot of stuff. So this is a good weekend to get a pizza, get some wings, get your PB&J.
Always a good weekend to get a pizza.
That's true. I ordered Pizza Hut, not an ad, last week.
Wow.
We hadn't ordered from. They had this special, not an ad, but it was 2 medium pizzas, 1 topping each. So we got pepperoni and ham. and it came with breadsticks, and they had to be boneless wings. That was part of the deal. But I got lemon pepper, and they were great, and they were kind of like chicken nuggets, and my son liked them, so it was awesome. It was a great night because Arizona State won. Florida, super depressing, and the Astros lost the second game of the series against the Mariners, but Sun Devils won, so that was good.
So that puts us at the Commanders, who are favorites in Atlanta. They are 2.5-point favorites against the Dirty Birds, as they are called. Who are you taking?
I'll lay them. I'll lay the points. I mean, this Falcons team, I'm fine betting against them in the wake of the Panthers loss, and if I'm wrong, okay, cool. But like that was enough of a reason to spook me, away from them. Plus, I was really impressed by what Washington did last week, so I'll take the Commanders.
I'm with you. I do think it's going to have to be, if the Falcons win that game, it's just going to have to be all Bijan. And I will be interested to see how the Commanders defense holds up against the run there. But I just think Penix is too limited and kind of needs to rely on Robinson to have like a really big game for that team to have a chance. So whether it's Jaden Daniels or Mariota, I'm not. That was a really nice win for the Falcons that they had in Minnesota, but it's hard to gauge with McCarthy. We don't fully know what to make of him, so I'll take the Commanders.
So if we move to the Giants-Chargers game, which already featured a twist, I just pulled this up at Big Blue View. Initially in Ed's opening odds article, the Giants were 5.5-point underdogs. At the moment, the Giants are 6.5-point underdogs. Now this game is at MetLife, and I don't know when that movement happened. I didn't, this could have happened in the last 45 minutes or whatever, but it could have happened.
I'm taking the
Monday.
Points, baby. Give me the points. I think the Giants could win the game outright, but I think they're going to have a moral win. I think it'll be like Jackson Dart plays pretty well, and they have a chance to win at the end, and Justin Herbert comes through. But the Giants fans are like, oh, we almost beat the Chargers, who are now 4-0. So I think it's that kind of game for the Giants.
It's weird how the Giants are ancestrally tied to a lot of things. Like with Daniel Jones, it was like he was basically Eli reincarnated, and it was like this Eli fan and David Cutcliffe and all this stuff. And even Jackson Dart, it's like, well, he went to Ole Miss and Eli went to Ole Miss, and now it's like his first game is against the Chargers, who Eli spurned. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really fun twist of things, and that's just the way life happens sometimes. I'm with you. I do think maybe it would be such a bad beat if like this game was tied and the Chargers got like a last second touchdown, to cover in the end. But I think this will be. The Giants fans will be going into the fourth quarter feeling like we can win this game. Like I think that's what it's going to be. I think they probably lose, but I think they definitely cover. I'm with you.
And that brings us to the Cowboys, who we already kind of talked about, but I think just official. Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers to win and cover here. I think they're going to be angry after that loss to the Browns. Packers looked really good in the first 2 weeks. I think that defense is going to stifle a Cowboys offense that missing CeeDee Lamb is a major deal. And the fact that they're also missing multiple offensive linemen, major deal. And I think Micah Parsons is going to have a very big game.
This, for your context, opened at 5.5, and it's grown to 6.5.
Yeah, that's not a good sign for the Cowboys.
That growth happened on Monday. Again, just for the full story of it all. I in no way have the confidence to even take the points. I think if they do cover, it's a matter of like Dak has this just like crazy 100%. Game. George Pickens has this crazy game, and it's just like all for nothing. It's like the tweet that people would bring up forever about Shohei and Mike Trout. The tweet I'm talking about. It's like every Angels tweet I see is like they did this for the first time ever while the Angels lost.
Tungsten arms. 10
to 3 or whatever.
Ohtani did that against the Phillies last week, where he was like, I think he was like throwing like a no-hitter basically the first 5 innings, and they took him out, and the Phillies crushed him after that. He
also gets the like made-up stats thing. Like it gets really. I think he's amazing, but like we can just say he's amazing. Like we don't have to, and they won the World Series. Like we don't have to whatever. So anyway. And the only reason I would bet against, I would take the points would be like the Packers offense has a little bit to prove here. You know what I mean? Like I if I'm confident in anything, it's that the Packers defense is going to swarm Dak Prescott. Micah is I think he's going to have 3 sacks, like easy. I mean, I don't know what
the NFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah. I have no idea what like the individual lines or props are for Micah, but I would take the over on all of them. I mean, each and every single one. So and maybe it's a matter where like that is like Micah's so like, red-eyed focused that it costs the Packers. You know what I mean? Like that's the path to victory.
Fiction.
No, I mean that's like, again, if you're trying to like surmise like how did the Cowboys win, it's like that's the way. But so maybe they dominate and maybe they win, 13-3, you know what I mean? Or 13-6 or something like that. Like if there's a low Packers offensive performance, but I think this is going to be a Packers party. Like it is going to be a just miserable 4 hours for Cowboys fans everywhere. The camera shots to Jerry Jones are going to be exhausting. Chris Collinsworth is going to be like, I don't know why they traded this guy, and all sorts of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, tough times.
It is funny, you talked about this at the top of the show, how the division standings are a step ladder right now between 0-3, 0-3, 1-2, 2-1, 3-0. That's all I got.
I am saying this now, even if the Cowboys get just destroyed, there will be I talked about how a win would be cathartic. There will be relief from my perspective, at least, either way, because at least this will be over. The moment the trade happened, it was a matter of like, holy crap, they got to play them on September 28th. You know what I mean? Like, so there will be, I think, this freedom, however it goes, that like finally we don't have to worry about this for some time at least. You know what I mean? And so that will be nice.
Yeah, there are questions about Jordan Love, definitely, but against that defense, I think they'll do enough. They'll figure it out.
All right, it's song time.
I'll go first. It is my song this week. I feel like I usually go second. Change it up. This lyric actually reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys, so a little tribute to them. This is by Hot Mulligan, who I actually heard. I had heard of them before, but I was at a bar last week in Philly called Loco Pez, RJ, for their $1 taco night. Guess how many?
Is this where you got the PB&J?
No, that was at Royal Tavern. Okay. This is at Loco Pez.
Lots of free pub on this episode of the Mixtape.
Guess how many? Well, I think it's nice to shout out, local mom and pop shop restaurants in Philly area. As you're giving shout outs to pizza here. No shame on pizza. I like chain restaurants too. Anyway, I heard this song while I was there, which reminded me of them. Can you guess how many $1 tacos I had?
19.
I had 33. So I wanted to eat 33 because I'm 33 years old and I wanted to do it, and I did it. I crushed it. So great job by me. They do a challenge typically where if you eat 20, you get a free t-shirt. And if you do 20 within 5 minutes, you get it like for free. I'm not a speed eater. I don't do that. I just don't. That's not my thing. Because I want to enjoy it. Like, I don't want to just like shove it down my face. So anyway, heard the song while I was there, and it reminded me of them because I had been listening to them back in the summer. Midwest emo band, for those who like that genre. The song is called Backyard, but it's spelled without A's. So it's BCKYRD. And the line that I think kind of fits with the Dallas Cowboys here is, things don't get better, just different.
We've never run into this before. There is an acoustic version. So which would you like? Okay.
Not the acoustic version. The version off of their album You'll Be Fine, which has a dog on it, which is cool. But yeah, it's the 10th track on that album called Backyard, spelled without the A's in it. My song,
so Cowboys lost on Sunday, and that sucked. And I was going to tweet this, but sometimes it's difficult to, smush something into 280 characters or whatever it is. And like ever since people, I've said this before, but people told me all the time, like, being a dad is the best thing in the world. And every single one of them were right. Like, and my son is 3, almost 4, and he's just into everything. He's going to be Mario for Halloween. I'm going to be Yoshi. My wife's going to be Princess Peach. It's going to be awesome. And just everything is the best. Everything is fun. Everything is awesome. And so the Cowboys lost, and it sucked. And then I was helping get him ready for bed, and it was September 21st. And so everybody was like,
do you remember?
So that was a big thing. And I just I had the thought while we were brushing his teeth to play the song. So I put it on my phone, and he to say tore up the proverbial dance floor is not strong enough
for what he song.
Did. He was just into it. And then at one point he grabbed my hand and my wife's hand and was just dancing. It was just this awesome moment. It was football really doesn't matter. And so it was really cool. So September, he calls it Timba. That's what he calls the song, by Earth, Wind, and Fire is my selection for the week.
That's so funny. I thought about picking that one too. But I was like, it's not actually on the day. It's still fine because it's a great song. Not going to begrudge the point here by you. But and I also think it's a nice sentiment and healthy relationship to have with football and sports when you can enjoy your actual life more than this stuff that doesn't truly actually matter at all, even though it does in the most intense ways. But yeah, it's funny because the Eagles were playing that song after the win, and I was like, oh yeah, like love this song, great song. And I was like, wait, it is September 21st. So
We have a lot of days, like soon it'll be October 3rd. Shout out to Katie Harrington, and then it will be November 5th, which is not only Remember, but it is also the day that Marty McFly went back in time.
Great movie. Love V for Vendetta.
And so a couple last things before our Survivor 49 picks. Somewhat related to football, more related to us. Adam Schefter noted that Terry McLaurin is uncertain to play, so he added that verbiage. So keep that in mind. And also on the collegiate front, we were trying to name Florida Gators who played for the Eagles before we started streaming. I don't know any Oklahoma State Cowboys, but OSU fired Mike Gundy while we were on. So
didn't Des Bryant go there?
I said play for the Eagles. There have been a lot of Oklahoma State guys.
We said the Cowboys.
Well, they are the Cowboys.
Gotcha.
So I don't know any Oklahoma State Cowboys who played for the Eagles. But Dez, Brandon Wheaton, Joseph Randall. There have been a lot of OSU guys who played for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm not really great with that either because I don't watch a ton of college football.
But yeah, so I mean that's a big deal. I mean Mike Gundy's been there forever. So okay, so Survivor 49 picks.
Yeah, I'll let you go first. I haven't fully finished. I'm like almost. I think I'm on my last contestant in terms of the preseason interview.
Well, my answer is kind of based on. Do you know anything about season 50? Like, do you know the cast for season 50? I'm asking you, Brandon. Okay.
Yes.
So my answer is a little bit of a cheat then. And I wish we didn't know. I wish we didn't know this information. I'm sorry if in advance if I'm connecting dots that you haven't connected.
Yeah.
But I think you know what I'm saying, and therefore, if you know what I'm saying, I don't feel bad for like spoiling something for you.
I mean, it's not on us. It's the Survivor themselves.
Okay.
Have, like made it pretty known. It's pretty. You'd have to be living under a rock.
Okay, thank you. So the closest I've ever come to knowing a Survivor contestant in real life was Kim. My friend Leslie is her cousin, but we have had dominant player, winner. We have
made
had
that season boring, actually. Like to me, like I think she's great. No, nothing against her, but like because of how good she was, it was just like I don't like this season.
We have had two members of the former podcast Surviving Snyder here. You weren't here for the other, but Rick Devins is, I would say, a friend. He's at least part of the NFC East mixtape universe.
He is.
But Savannah Louie, back when I was living in San Antonio and doing sports talk radio there, she worked for the local news, and she and another woman who worked there, they would come in from time to time to do like segments that were just about local stories in San Antonio and stuff. And just during commercials and stuff, we would talk about whatever. And at some point, Survivor came up, and she told me then, this was like in 2017, 2018, she said, I am always applying. That's my dream. I want to be on the show, etc. And so when I heard her voice on the preview for the season at the end of season 48, I freaked out. And then she was on it. And then we came to find out that she is also on season 50. And the reason I brought up the kind of spoiler element is that would suggest that she does rather well this season. Maybe not necessarily wins, because I think there's a male competitor from this season as well who's also on season 50. So she might win. She might get like second or third. I would imagine she at least makes final tribal council. But my pick to win from a loyalty perspective and a logic, and also kind of having peeked behind the fourth wall or through the fourth wall behind the curtain, is Savannah Louie to win season 49 of Survivor.
Okay, fair. So part of the problem here for me is I listen to these podcasts with the contestants before the season, but then like I'm not always able to look up what they look like at the time, so I don't really know who I was listening to there, which is a flaw of mine, I guess. But so there was one interview that I've been pretty good with this. I did pick Kenzie as the winner a couple seasons ago when I listened to. I was really impressed. She was my winner pick. I picked Sam the season that Rachel won, which he finished second. So I've been like pretty decent. Last year it was tough for me. But the guy I picked got like totally screwed out of the game in a way that wasn't like much in his control. Justin from last year, where he has to go, he loses a vote in a way where
speaking of pizza,
yes, and he loses it on like a game where there's no skill involved. It was a really weird, fluky, and the shot in the dark hits. Like he got it's just a very unlucky way for him to get out of the game. So kind of tough there for me. But I'll go with the Riz God. I will take him. I actually met someone who knows him and had high things to say about him. So I'll take him. Do I feel amazing about that pick? No, but whatever. I'll just go with it.
I also think that Survivor kind of has ruined. I don't know who the male competitor that is on season 50 was, Savannah, that's on season 49. But Survivor
I may have said him.
Is that who it is? Is it Riz That's him. Okay, so my point is like Survivor has made it stupid to not pick Riz God or
Right.
Savannah. Like that's my point. So like this is
I'm
on
playing the percentages here.
Yeah, if you pick anyone else, you're kind of silly. But
Although
it is possible that they
could be a fake out.
Yeah, they pick maybe two of the like maybe the final tribal is them two and someone else in that person.
Right.
And that would still justify having them on season 50. Totally.
Yep.
Okay, so that was Survivor talk. Here the Survivor mixtape. Maybe. I don't know.
It's a workshop.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, as we leave, why don't you tell us your favorite thing about pizza? Not favorite pizza topping or favorite type or favorite place, but your favorite thing about pizza. Why you love it so much.
That's a good question. I think it just makes me really happy and excited. Just it tastes really good. I don't know. It sounds very basic, but it's true. That's all I got. I love it. Pizza.